My son finally got the wife we'd been waiting for. She is pregnant. My son is getting married, and I'll even get to see my grandchild's face. My husband brought out a special bottle of wine, and the three of us toasted together. Yet, despite all the excitement, my daughter-in-law dropped a shocking statement on me. A dirty old cleaning lady like you is a bad influence on my child. So consider us estranged. It's been a year since the estrangement began. My son says he's coming over with his family. It seems he has made a decision. I am Hilary Gale, 72 years old. Until 2 years ago, I was a leading architect. But I retired at 70 and now enjoy a comfortable retirement in a high-rise condo in New York City's Midtown with my husband of the same age. My husband was a skilled carpenter and retired at 65. To support me while I was still working, he went to culinary school and learned to cook. Now, he's even better at cooking than I am. He spends his free time building plastic models and walking for his health. As for me, I thought I would relax after retirement. But due to my inherent restlessness, I couldn't sit still at home and signed up as a temporary cleaning staff a year ago. Cleaning buildings in New York City. Sometimes I clean buildings I once designed. And I feel a nostalgic attachment to them like they're my own children. I enjoy this job because it keeps me active for my health. At work, I keep it a secret that I was a first-class architect with an annual income of $500,000 and now live in a high-rise condo. Envy from others can be quite troublesome. It's easier to be seen as an elderly lady who still needs to work after turning 70. My only real worry is my 40-year-old son. He works for a sporting goods manufacturer in New York. He's been playing baseball since elementary school and played shortstop in the Big Six university baseball leagues. He still enjoys watching baseball and likes sports in general, which suits his job in sales at the sporting goods company. My son is single. He was supposed to get married 5 years ago, but his fiancée betrayed him in a terrible way. To put it simply, she was after his money. According to my son, her attitude changed after she learned we lived in a high-rise condo. She started spending more money, inquiring about mine and my husband's health. And, worst of all, he once overheard her talking with another man she didn't know, saying, "His parents are quite old, and once we get the inheritance, we can live a rich life." The breakup was quite a scene, but somehow he managed to cut ties with her. I can't marry someone who's just waiting for my parents to die, he said with a wry smile, though I could tell the ordeal had taken a toll on him. Afterward, he moved out of our high-rise condo and started living alone in a one-room condo. It was tough for my husband and me to see how the high-rise condo had become a trauma for our son. 5 years passed without any talk of marriage or him dating someone. While marriage isn't everything, and happiness is what really matters, I still hoped he would find a life partner to spend his life with. We bought the high-rise condo about 10 years ago. Before that, we lived in a detached house in the neighboring state, left to us by my husband's parents. It was comfortable, but as we got older, it became harder to go up and down the stairs. One day, my husband suddenly said, "Hey, why don't we sell this house and spend our old age in the city? I've been hearing about these high-rise condos recently. They seem convenient and secure." Though I had never designed a high-rise condo, I was very interested. Living in central New York would allow us to easily visit cinemas and museums, and it seemed like we wouldn't get bored even after retiring. If we retire from work and just sit at home, we might get senile, my husband said, and I agreed with a laugh. So, We sold our longtime home and moved into a high-rise condo in New York City's Midtown. Living there turned out to be very comfortable, with a variety of commercial facilities and clinics on the lower floors, making it so that we almost never had to go outside for anything. We chose carefully, so the property value is unlikely to decrease significantly. We also considered eventually selling it and moving into a nursing home together. My son comes to visit once a month, joining us for dinner. One day, he arrived and announced, "Mom, Dad, my girlfriend is pregnant. So we're getting married." My husband and I were initially surprised, but then delighted. What a joyous occasion, my son getting married and even getting to see my grandchild. My husband brought out a special bottle of wine, and the three of us toasted together. His partner, Mandy, a 35-year-old woman, happened to sit next to him at a baseball game. They supported the same team. And after a thrilling seesaw game where their team won with a walk-off in the final inning, they decided to celebrate together. It's nice to have a common hobby to enjoy together, I thought as I imagined my son wearing a baseball cap, attending games with his child and forming a happy family trio. Then, my son said, "So, I have a favor to ask. Can we keep it a secret that you guys live in a high-rise condo for a while?" It's not that I don't trust her, but it seemed like his previous experience had left quite a trauma. Understood. It's not like we have to keep it a secret forever, right? Yeah, thanks. I think we can bring her here once the baby is born. I was truly looking forward to it. After consulting each other, my son and his wife decided that given their age, they would skip a traditional wedding ceremony and opt for a photo wedding, and hold a wedding reception party instead. They told me not to bother with a formal meeting between the families, and that greetings at the party would suffice. Apparently, many couples nowadays opt for a more casual approach to marriage. Well, indeed, if spending money on a wedding ceremony and reception means less financial stability when a child is born, it seems like a sensible approach. At the wedding reception, my son's bride, Cindy, turned out to be a rather strong-willed and outspoken woman. My son is gentle and somewhat timid, so it's good that Cindy is the more assertive one. Cindy's parents are both under 60 and still working. What caught my attention was when Cindy asked, "So, your father is retired, but does your mother still work?" And I replied, "My husband is retired, but I work part-time cleaning buildings." The look on Cindy's face when she said, "A cleaning lady, huh," was as if she was looking down on cleaning staff. My son and Cindy have started living together in a 2-room condo in Naarima, close to Cindy's parents' house. She's pregnant, and it's safer to be near her family. My commute has become a bit harder, but, my son said, already under his wife's thumb. Being henpecked by your wife makes for a peaceful home, my husband remarked. Oh. When did I ever henpeck you? No, that's just how you are, darling. We were laughing, but it was no longer a laughing matter. When I noticed my son looking terribly gaunt during his rare visit to our high-rise condo. He says the morning sickness is tough and he spends almost all day lying down. I do all the housework, well, that's okay. He said this with a wry smile. It's a part of marriage to help each other out during tough times. There will be such periods. But, morning sickness at 7 months? You should be in your stable period by now, and it usually subsides. But she says she feels lethargic and looks really unwell. People vary, but lying around too much can actually make labor more difficult. Maybe you should consult a doctor. I blurted this out because I genuinely hoped for the grandchild's safe arrival. Later, when I tried contacting my son, it seemed he hadn't taken my advice. She might be hospitalized for preeclampsia, he said. Worried, I rushed to the apartment where my son and his wife were living. Mandy had gained a significant amount of weight, probably over 45 pounds. Mandy, you've gained too much weight. Preeclampsia is dangerous. Even now, you should change your lifestyle. Be mindful of your daily diet and do some light exercise. I said this out of concern, but it seemed to have touched a nerve. What are you talking about? I need to eat for the baby. And it's natural to gain some weight. The idea that a pregnant woman needs to eat for two is outdated. Nowadays, it's common sense to eat a balanced diet and try not to gain too much weight. Caught between not knowing whose side to take, my son was flustered. Mandy, you'll be 36 by your due date, right? That's considered advanced maternal age. You need to be extra careful compared to younger expectant mothers. Maybe that was too much to say. Why do you only say things that make me anxious? Just go home, she yelled. And I was thrown out. As my son escorted me out of the apartment, I apologized. I might have said too much, but I'm really worried. To which he responded, I understand. I'll talk to her, so don't worry. Though he said that, a few weeks later, Mandy was hospitalized for preeclampsia. I thought about visiting, but my son stopped me. The hospital food is terrible, and it's making her irritable, he said. Which is expected given the low salt content. All this was the result of her eating whatever she wanted and not being active. I could only pray that I'd be able to meet my grandchild safely. Perhaps my prayers were answered. Because Mandy was discharged after about 10 days. And eventually gave birth to a healthy baby boy. My husband and I held hands and rejoiced upon hearing the news from our son. We rushed to the hospital, thanked Mandy for letting us meet our grandson, and praised her efforts, but she retorted, I didn't have him for you. It's said that mother-in-laws and daughters-in-law often don't get along. And I had thought I wouldn't be like that. But to her, I must have seemed like a nagging mother-in-law. I was quite disappointed and disheartened. Nevertheless, when I heard from my son that Mandy and the baby were discharged together, my husband and I brought gifts and visited their apartment. The newborn was so tiny and adorable, it reminded me of when my son was born. And I couldn't help but tear up as I gently reached out to touch my grandson's hand. Don't touch him with your dirty hands. Mandy snapped. I had washed my hands meticulously at their place, yet she scolded me. Hey! That's no way to speak, my son interjected. Whose side are you on? She retorted. It's not about sides. Your father, your mother, Mandy, and the child were all precious family members. Huh? What are you talking about? A husband and child should naturally be the most important. Their argument escalated into a full-blown quarrel. Come on, both of you, calm down. As I tried to intervene, Mandy snapped. Shut up. Who do you think is at fault here? It was harsh to hear such words from someone who is technically a parent-in-law. And then she shouted hysterically. A dirty old cleaning lady like you is a bad influence on my grandchild, so we're estranged. Stunned by her outburst, my husband sighed. Indeed, showing this kind of scene to the grandchild is harmful. Yes. Mandy, is that all you wanted to say? She didn't reply. I felt very sad. My husband and I, shoulders drooped, left our son and daughter-in-law's apartment. After consulting with my husband, we decided to keep our distance from them for a while. Maybe after some time passes, things might change. holding on to that slim hope. I looked forward to the photos of my grandson that my son sent via line. Recently, he began to pull himself up to stand, unbearably cute. The more adorable the pictures of my grandson were, the more I longed to hold him. Which was difficult. One thing I noticed was that the photos always showed my grandson alone. Normally, wouldn't they take pictures holding the child? I worried with my husband that their marital relationship might not be going well. As the year since my grandson's birth was about to pass, my son contacted me. He said that the three of them would visit us next Sunday. Did you talk to Mandy? About the high-rise condo. If not, they wouldn't be coming here. Yes. I told her about the high-rise condo. And that you used to be a first-class architect with a significant income. But she didn't believe it, so I decided to bring her here. It seemed that their marital relationship was fine, and Mandy's attitude had softened, making it possible for them to get along well with us, the grandparents. He had his reasons, I suppose. Though I had questions, I decided to wait for the day to come. Wow. No way. It's really true? As she entered the door and stepped into the foyer, Mandy exclaimed with joy. She had gained even more weight since the last time I saw her. No way. This is amazing. How many rooms are there? The view is incredible too. It's on the 30th floor, right? Beautiful. Without greeting my husband and me, Mandy entered the room and started checking around. My husband and I were so absorbed in taking turns holding our long-awaited grandchild, who was sleeping soundly, that just looking at him made our cheeks relax. What? The baby woke up and started crying. Maybe he was surprised by the unfamiliar surroundings, or perhaps he was hungry. Mandy, the baby is crying. Could it be time for his milk? However, it seemed like Mandy wasn't even listening to the baby's cries. There, don't cry, don't cry. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Mandy said to our son in a tone of voice we'd never heard before, showing unexpected dependency. Hillary, you lied about being just a cleaner, but you actually made a lot of money, right? I don't quite understand, but you were a first-class architect? She approached me with a coquettish behavior. It's true that I worked as a cleaner. Wow, that's unusual. If I had money and lived in a place like this, I'd enjoy life elegantly every day. She was practically declaring herself a lazy idler. Then Mandy, getting carried away, blurted out something fatal. Once your father-in-law and mother-in-law die, this high-rise condo becomes ours, right? No, it won't. What? My son replied coldly, leaving Mandy astonished. I'm divorcing you. I'm taking custody of our child. What are you saying all of a sudden? Stop it with the bad jokes. It's no joke. I've tolerated you skipping out on household duties and parenting. Well, I gave you a child even though you're over 40 and unimpressive. You should be grateful. Her reasoning was absurd, especially since she wasn't young herself. But I can't live with someone who looks forward to my parents' death. I never said that. Do you know why I've kept silent about the high-rise condo and Mom's job? What? And why I brought you here today? Our son looked pained as he spoke. What are you talking about? This child is mine. You can't just divorce and hand over custody. Okay, I understand. I'll pay child support, so please let's get divorced. Are you telling me to become a single mother and live in an apartment? That's ridiculous. We don't need to divorce. We can all live in this high-rise condo together. Through this exchange, It was clear she was more interested in the condo than in custody rights. Perhaps our son brought Mandy here to give her one last chance. For the sake of their child, hoping they could resolve things without divorce. If only Mandy had shown more consideration towards us, his parents. Our son might not have considered divorce. However, once words are spoken, they can't be taken back. Once he made up his mind, our son refused to accept her tearful pleas. Still, as Mandy continued to protest, our son said, "I've recorded you not doing housework or parenting on video. And I've also recorded what you've said since we arrived here." "What? What is that?" "You're a liar and a coward." The worst. Mandy turned pale. "If that's the case, let's discuss this through lawyers." "But Mandy, I haven't forgotten that you told me not to touch my grandson with my dirty hands and declared us estranged." "That's right. You were the one who wanted estrangement. And now you can't just say you want to live together." As my husband and I said this, Mandy had nothing to reply and collapsed to her knees, muttering complaints as she staggered out of the room. Thus, my husband and I came to live in the high-rise condo with our son and grandson. Our son was feeling down for a while, lamenting, "Why can't I see through women? It's all because I wanted to live in a high-rise condo." "I'm sorry." My husband felt responsible, though it wasn't his fault. "Well, it's just bad luck that it happened twice in a row. You'll surely meet someone nice eventually." Even though I said that, our son replied with a sad smile, "No, it's okay. I have my son, and both my parents are healthy. I'm already very happy." Mandy, having divorced and returned to her parents' house, often left her nursing child with her daughter to go out, to her parents' dismay. When they discovered she was also in debt and not working, they scolded her, saying they wouldn't keep her at home if she didn't work. Ironically, she ended up working as a cleaner, the very job she had scorned, being treated as an incompetent old lady. That's what happens when you look down on people like that. You're bound to be disliked at work. Occasionally, messages arrive from her to our son, wanting to reconcile. But now he doesn't even read them, let alone reply. While my husband and I were overjoyed to live with our grandson, taking care of an infant at over 70 was more challenging than imagined. Grandchildren are adorable when you see them for just a few hours. But we had forgotten how hard parenting was. After our daughter-in-law essentially abandoned her family duties, our son, who had been managing work and parenting alone for a year, truly seemed admirable. "Mom, Dad, aren't you tired? Why don't you hire a babysitter?" Our son suggested this, and we decided to hire a babysitter. A 36-year-old single mother named Cindy, who was very efficient as she was raising her own children, came to help us from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. on weekdays. She's a mother of a 10-year-old girl and a 7-year-old boy. Being here from 10 to 16 really helps. I can go to work after sending the kids to school, do the shopping, and prepare dinner in time, she said gratefully. Living together as a family of 3, they've grown quite close over time. Cindy once shared that her husband was addicted to gambling and showed no signs of changing, so she slapped him with divorce papers. She hasn't received any child support. She's a bright and resilient woman. My husband and I have grown fond of Cindy and invited her and her children over for a meal at our home on her day off, Sunday. Cindy happily accepted the invitation. "Really?" When I told the kids I work in a high-rise condo, they were so envious. They've been dying to visit. Cindy's children are polite, energetic, and adorable. They quickly became friends with our nearly 2-year-old grandson. This high-rise condo is amazing. The cars look so tiny from up here. It was delightful to watch the kids running around, enjoying themselves. The younger boy was particularly fascinated by my husband's model kits. And my husband proudly showed off his collection of robots and fighter jets. This was the first time Cindy and our son met since she has weekends off. They greeted each other with, "Nice to meet you," and my son said, "Thank you for always looking after my son and my parents." Cindy replied, "I'm the one who should be thankful," and they both laughed, saying, "It feels a bit strange, doesn't it?" Actually, my husband and I had hoped to set them up. She'd make a great daughter-in-law, we thought. But we didn't want to push, so after introducing them, we left it up to them. We had already informed Cindy about our situation. That she would be caring for our grandson whose mother was not involved. "I can't believe there's a mother who wouldn't want to take care of such a cute child," she had said, astonished. At the living room table, my son and Cindy sat watching the kids play. "It's nice, the sound of children laughing," my son remarked thoughtfully. "Yes, it's wonderful. And it's so lovely to see both your parents cooking together in the kitchen." They could hear their conversation from the open kitchen. My dad learned to cook at a culinary school after he retired, to help out my mom who was still working. My husband blushed as he shared this. "I wish I had that kind of relationship. My marriage didn't work out." "Me too," my son replied. "Isn't this nice?" I signaled to my husband with my eyes. He nodded back. Cindy, would you like to live in a high-rise condo?" My son suddenly broached a crucial topic. My husband and I tensed up. "Well, I think this place is wonderful. But for me, it's more important who I live with than where I live." Cindy probably gave the perfect answer. I was sure that was the moment my son fell for her. They started visiting us on weekends as a family, and our grandson joined them on outings. They looked like a long-married, happy family. Perhaps the intelligent Cindy, knowing about my son's past traumas, skillfully navigated his emotional scars and captured his heart. If so, that was fine by me. I believed she would continue to be clever and build a happy home without ever slipping up. After a year of close family ties, my son formally told us, "I'm thinking of proposing to Cindy. Do Mom and Dad approve?" My husband and I looked at each other and nodded. "It's about time, huh?" "Yeah, I was wondering when you'd ask." "Of course, we approve." "Yes, of course," we said in unison.